West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has announced he will not support the president's social spending plan. The White House has spent months trying to convince the Democrat to support the measure. With no Republican support, Democrats needed every vote to pass the Build Back Better plan. But on Sunday, Manchin said it's time to move on.
I've always said this, Brett, if I can't go home and explain it to the people of West Virginia, I can't vote for it. And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
You're done. This is a no.
This is a no on this legislation.
CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is with me with all the latest details from Washington. Ed, I can't imagine a better person to be talking to about this than you, because we know that Senator Manchin and the White House were actively negotiating. So did this come as a surprise when he made this announcement on Fox News Sunday?
Well, people close to the senator say he gave the White House and congressional Democratic leadership a heads up about what he would say Sunday morning. But the White House issued a statement a few hours later suggesting that he is essentially at odds this morning with his discussions this week with the president, with White House staff, and with his own public comments in recent weeks, adding later, just as Senator Manchin reversed his position on Build Back Better this morning, we will continue to press him to see if he will reverse his position yet again to honor his prior commitments and to be true to his word. The White House points out that he went to the president's home in Wilmington, Delaware, and said he would agree to work with the president on the framework. The White House says he submitted an alternative just this past week, but now, for whatever reason, this morning is saying that he can no longer support the Build Back Better plan. It's important to point out to people, however, what is now dead, in essence, is the Build Back Better legislation as currently written, and yes, as passed by the House. But anything that's still up for debate and hasn't been passed by one of the chambers can, of course, be amended or rewritten, or the whole process could be tossed out and started again. It doesn't mean that the debate over climate change or health care or paid family leave or all these other issues that are inside this monster piece of legislation are completely off the table. What he is saying is, as currently constructed, I can't be for this, but I will work with my Democratic and Republican colleagues to see if there's something else to be done. And one of the things that would have to be done is the size and scope of it would have to be shrunk to some extent, or certain elements of it would have to be paid for over a longer period of time to, in his words, sort of make it clear to people what this thing would actually cost. And that's his concern, for example, with the child tax credit, that there was talk of extending it maybe 1 or 2 years. He's saying, no, extend it out for 10 and show people how much it would cost in this legislation and keep it within that $1.4 to $1.7 trillion price tag. And if that means you have to drop other things out of this thing, then go ahead. And he's expressed concern this morning about elements of the climate change provisions in it. The White House is disputing his characterization of it all. All of this is still up for debate. So while the bill itself may be dead, which many in Washington already kind of suspected, it doesn't mean the debate is over, but there will be questions about who sparks that debate, who puts pen to paper to write something else, and are the rest of the Democratic Party and its members willing and ready to do that?
Yeah, well, certainly the debate will go on. I have to say that's rather scathing to come from the White House, quote, be true to his word. And what's the reaction been from other senators? And remind all of our viewers, when is Senator Manchin up for re-election?
So he's not up for re-election until 2024, and it's unclear whether he will run for the Senate again or leave or do something else. He occasionally threatens, at least once or twice a year, to go home and run for governor again. So we'll see. But as for other Democrats, among those speaking out this morning, Senator Bernie Sanders said, hold a vote on this thing anyway. Put Manchin on the record as opposed to it and see what West Virginia voters think of that, because there have been big concern among other Democrats that there are people in West Virginia who would best stand to benefit from this legislation, especially in dealing with the costs of child care, concerns with climate change, health care costs as well. Of course, Manchin turns around and says, did you see how much Donald Trump won my state by last year? Did you see how much he won it by in 2016? I understand the politics of my state better than you do, and those that vote won't vote for someone like me if I'm voting for something like this. Other members of the so-called squad, those liberal House members like Cori Bush of Missouri or Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, speaking out this morning, in essence saying, we're not surprised by what he decided to do, and this is why we held up things over the summer into the fall by arguing we don't want to hold a vote on that big infrastructure bill that got approved before knowing that there was going to be approval of this Build Back Better plan. So in essence, they got hosed here by the senator, but this is what many liberal Democrats expected.
Yeah. So if the game plan now is to carve up Build Back Better into separate pieces of legislation that might be able to either win Senator Manchin's support or the support of any Senate Republicans, when might we expect new altered legislation addressing some of those issues? And which of those issues are the most likely to gain support in a way that could actually be passed?
Good questions, but I don't think we're going to know the answers to that until early January after the holidays at this point. Remember, Congress is gone for this coming week. We'll see whether the president talks to Senator Manchin or to congressional leadership this week about what maybe could be done instead. But knowing what it takes to figure out how members of your caucus feel, it could be several days into January before leaders can really signal what they think is salvageable, or whether you take the existing legislation, scrap something out of it, bring it down, send it back to the House, and see if it can pass. And remember, math has been an issue all year long. It still is. 50 Democratic senators in a 100-member Senate. Over in the House, they have about a 3-vote majority, with at least a dozen liberal members saying, for all sorts of reasons, that they would be against this legislation if it came back from the Senate with changes to it regarding either climate change or immigration or paid leave. So we may be back to square one, or there may be a way to salvage this. A lot of it will depend on how active Manchin remains in these conversations. A lot of it will depend on how angry, and in some cases, to their side of things, justifiably angry, certain segments of the Democratic Party remain. But it's been no secret all year long, and this president has been saying it since his campaign, that with closely divided chambers, compromise is going to be necessary, and compromise among Democrats before compromise even is thought about with Republicans.
Well, we know that compromise always becomes more difficult as we head closer to those midterm elections. We're watching and waiting to hear what you have to say. Ed, thank you.
Take care.